viewers, this is Nimrod TV and you're watching Perspectives with me, MARYAM Olugbote. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has confirmed the sale of over 84 million barrels of crude oil to the Dangote refinery, dispelling rumors that it has abandoned the controversial Naira for crude policy. The state-owned oil giant insists that its commitment to local refining remains steadfast, but uncertainties loom over whether future transactions will continue in Naira. For months, reports have circulated that the Naira deal, initially hailed as a game-changer for Nigeria's energy security, was in jeopardy. The speculation gained momentum as a 6-month agreement which allowed Dangote refinery to purchase crude oil in local currency neared its expiration at the end of March 2025. But NNPCL has now set the record straight. The agreement is still in place and discussions are ongoing for a possible renewal. So what is really happening? Why did this issue spark widespread debate? And more importantly, what does it mean for the future of Nigeria's oil sector? Something big is brewing in Africa. Uganda has just sent special forces into South Sudan's capital, Juba. Officially, the deployment is meant to secure the city. But behind the diplomatic phrase, this move signals something much bigger. The question is, why now? And what does Uganda really want? Russia has been hit by what it calls a massive drone attack, one of the largest since the war began. The strikes targeted Moscow, Bryansk and Belgorod, sending air sirens wailing and forcing Russian air defenses into action. The Kremlin says most drones were intercepted, but explosions were reported. Infrastructure was damaged and at least 3 people were injured. The timing of this attack is not random. It's come just as Ukraine is set to meet with top US officials in major diplomatic engagement. Kyiv is desperate to keep American weapons and funding flowing. But Washington's new leadership is rethinking its approach. So was this a strategic move? Is Ukraine trying to pressure the US into maintaining military aid? And how will Russia respond? All of this and more coming, but first the news headlines. NNPCL's 84 million barrel deal with Dangote refinery, Naira controversy, and the future of Nigeria's oil trade. Uganda deploys troops to South Sudan. McCartney to replace Trudeau vows to take on Trump in trade war. Russia faces massive drone attack ahead of US-Ukraine talks. North Sea tanker collision, toxic spill, missing sailor, and a brewing environmental catastrophe. US markets plunge. Now to the news and details. NNPCL's 84 million barrel deal with Dangote refinery, Naira controversy, and the future of Nigeria's oil trade. At the heart of this controversy is one of the most ambitious projects in Africa, the 65,000 barrel per day Dangote refinery. Built to reduce Nigeria's dependence on imported refined petroleum products. The facility is expected to transform the country's oil industry, but to operate at full capacity, it needs a steady supply of crude, something that only NNPCL, which controls Nigeria's crude exports, can guarantee. Since October 2024, NNPCL has supplied over 48 million barrels of crude under the Naira for crude agreement, bringing the total to 84 million barrels since the refinery began operations. The deal was seen as a strategic move to strengthen Nigeria's local refining capacity while reducing reliance on foreign exchange. But the economics of oil trade are rarely simple. Selling crude in naira was a bold decision, one that aimed to ease pressure on Nigeria's dwindling foreign reserves, but the naira has not had a smooth ride. With persistent depreciations, questions emerged about whether NNPCL could afford to continue the arrangement.
On Monday, Mr. Shoneye punctured the alleged unilateral termination of the crude oil sales agreement in Naira between NNPC and the Dangote refinery. He explained that the contract for the sales of crude oil in Naira was a 6-month agreement, subject to availability, and is set to expire at the end of March 2025. Addressing that discussions are currently underway to establish a new contract. Mr. Shoneye reaffirms NNPC's commitment to supplying crude oil for local refining based on mutual agreement, agreed terms and conditions. Meanwhile, the chairman technical subcommittee for the Naira-based crude supply agreement, Mr. Zach Adedeji, in another statement says their attention has been drawn to reports suggesting that the Naira-based crude oil supply arrangements with local refineries has been discontinued, forcing them to rely solely on international crude purchases.
The oil industry operates in dollars. From crude pricing to international contracts, the dollar dominates. By shifting to Naira, Nigeria attempted to break this pattern and protect its economy from the volatility of forex markets. But as global crude price fluctuates and inflation bites, maintaining a Naira-based transaction system has become a challenge. Reports suggesting that NNPCL might return to dollar-dominated transactions set off alarm bells. Would Dangote refinery be forced to pay in dollars? Could Nigeria sustain a policy that goes against global oil trade norms? NNPCL has now responded, dismissing claims of an abrupt end to the deal. The official stance? The agreement is still active and negotiations for a renewal are underway. But the fact that there is even a debate signals deeper concerns about Nigeria's economic stability and the sustainability of its currency-driven oil strategy. This is not just about one refinery. It is about the entire structure of Nigeria's oil trade. For years, Nigeria has exported crude and imported refined products, the paradox for an oil-rich nation. The Dangote refinery was meant to change that. But without a stable crude supply agreement, the refinery's success is not guaranteed. If it struggles to secure local crude, it might be forced to look elsewhere, potentially importing crude from other suppliers at international prices, which could defeat the purpose of reducing forex exposure. There is also the question of government revenue. NNPCL is a major contributor to Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings. If it continues to sell crude in Naira, does it risk weakening its forex inflows? That's the question policymakers are now grappling with. All eyes are on the Nigerian government and NNPCL. Will they extend the Naira for crude policy, or will economic pressures push them back to dollar transactions? For now, the message is clear. The deal is still on, but its future hangs in the balance. If Nigeria truly wants to strengthen its local refining sector, it will need a long-term sustainable crude supply strategy, one that balances economic realities with national interests. And for Dangote refinery, the next few weeks could determine whether it remains the revolutionary project it was meant to be, or becomes yet another casualty of Nigeria's complex oil politics.
Our mandate, having asked the government of South Sudan, is to get out the Ugandans. But obviously, I imagine we will find, people from anywhere, and maybe even South Sudanese may want to come in. Yeah, we will bring them.
Some people who've tried to leave by road in recent days have been attacked by armed men. Juba and other parts of the country are now relatively calm, but many fear fighting could easily resume if a solution to the crisis isn't found quickly.
Uganda deploys 'deploys 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 ' Uganda's military chief, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, confirmed the operation. Special Forces units have moved into Juba, and the mission is clear: protect the government of President Salva Kiir. But here is the real headline. Kainerugaba did not mince words. He declared that any opposition to Kiir will be treated as a direct threat to Uganda itself. That is not just a statement, that is a warning. South Sudan has been on edge for weeks. Just days ago, 2 ministers and several senior military officials linked to First Vice President Riek Machar were arrested. Fighting has erupted near the town of Nasser. The 2018 peace agreement that ended a brutal 5-year civil war is now hanging by a thread. And Uganda is stepping in again. Yet this sounds familiar because it is. It is so because it is. If this sounds familiar, that is because it is. Uganda has a history of military interventions in South Sudan. In 2013, when civil war broke out between Kiir and Machar's factions, Ugandan troops entered South Sudan to bar Kiir. They eventually pulled out in 2015, only to return in 2016 when fighting erupted once more. And now, in 2025, Uganda is back in Juba. Clearly, President Yoweri Museveni sees South Sudan's stability as Uganda's business. But is this about peace or power? The international community is on edge. The United Nations has raised concerns about rising tensions. The United States has already ordered the evacuation of non-essential embassy staff from Juba, a clear signal that the situation is deteriorating fast. And then there is the African Union, silent for now, but silence won't last if South Sudan spirals into another war. Uganda insists that this is a stabilizing mission, but critics see it differently. Could this deployment escalate tensions rather than ease them? And does Uganda's deep involvement in South Sudan's affairs make the situation better or worse? One thing is clear: the region is watching, and what happens next in Juba could reshape East Africa's security landscape. Moving on, Makane to replace Trudeau vows to take on Trump in trade war.
Everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. But the far greater challenge will be, as it always has been, to foster unity and a sense of the common good. There are those who will seek power by dividing us. We'll get to that later on. And we being the people of Canada, we need you, my fellow candidates, myself, to continue in positions of leadership to promote a united Canada, a commitment to common good and the respect and the rule of law throughout the world.
Canada has a new leader, and he's stepping into office with a fight on his hands. Makane, the former central banker and financial heavyweight, is set to take over from Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. His first major challenge, a trade war with US President Donald Trump. Trump has slapped a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, igniting economic tensions between the two countries. But Canada isn't backing down. He's vowed to defend Canada's economy, calling the US tariffs an assault on Canadian families, making it clear that he's ready to retaliate. This is the greatest crisis of our lifetime, Canada declared. We didn't start this fight, but we will finish it. With Trump pushing his America First policies, Canada is now faced with a decision. Take the heat or fight back. Another Kenya, the message is clear: Canada will not be bullied. So is Mark Carney. McCartney isn't your typical politician. He's a financial expert with global credentials, having served as governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. He was instrumental in steering Canada through the 2008 financial crisis and later played a key role in stabilizing the EU economy during the turbulence of Brexit. Canada's experience in handling economic crises has made him a strong choice for Canada's top job. He secured the Liberal Party leadership with an overwhelming 85.9% of the votes, effectively sidelining any opposition. Now, as he prepares to take over from Trudeau, his immediate focus is the escalating tensions with the US. With a background in high-stakes global finance, Kanye understands the power dynamics in play, but politics is a different game. Kanye translates his economic expertise into political muscle. That's the real test ahead. The trade dispute escalated when Trump imposed a 25% tariff on key Canadian exports, sending shockwaves through the economy. The US president has even gone as far as suggesting that Canada should become America's 51st state, a comment that has been widely dismissed in Ottawa as both absurd and inflammatory. But Canada isn't just standing by. Ontario, the country's economic powerhouse, has already struck back. The province announced a 25% surcharge on electricity export to US. A state like Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. The move is expected to drive up energy costs for American consumers, adding fuel to an already heated trade dispute. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, a conservative leader who often clashed with Trudeau but now finds himself aligned with Kanye on this issue, made it clear that Canada will not be pushed around. We're not here to play games, Ford said. If they eat us, we eat back. If they keep pushing, we have more cards to play. The electricity tariffs are just the beginning. There are reports that Canada is considering other countermeasures, including potential restrictions on agricultural export and raw materials that the US relies on. Mark Carney's leadership marks a turning point in Canada's approach to dealing with the US. Under Trudeau, diplomacy and negotiation were the preferred tools, but with Trump back in the White House, it's clear that Canada needs a tougher stance. Kanye has already framed this trade war as a fight for Canada's economic sovereignty. And with Ontario leading the charge on retaliatory measures, it is evident that Canada is preparing for a prolonged battle. The stakes are high. The US remains Canada's largest trading partner. And any prolonged dispute could have major consequences for businesses on both sides of the border. But Kanye appears ready to gamble on a tougher approach, betting that Canada can stand its ground against Trump's economic aggression. As he steps into office, one thing is clear: Kanye is not here for business as usual. The quiet diplomacy of the past is gone. Canada is drawing its line in the sand. And if Trump thought he could push Canada around, he might have just met his match. Russia faces massive drone attack ahead of US-Ukraine talks. According to Russia's defense ministry, drones were detected over multiple regions, including Moscow. The capital's mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, confirmed that air defenses destroyed several incoming drones, though residents reported hearing blasts overnight.
Turning now to the war between Russia and Ukraine, as U.S. officials prepare to meet with Ukrainian officials for peace talks today. Russia says it was hit overnight with Kyiv's largest cross-border aerial attack since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. Russia's defense ministry said its forces shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 different regions, nearly 100 of them over Moscow alone. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting Ukraine's Air Force said it shot down a ballistic missile and 79 of 126 drones launched by Russia in an overnight attack of its own.
Further south in Belgorod and Bryansk, the attacks were more intense. Local authorities say debris from intercepted drones caused fires and property damage. Russian media reports claim Kyiv is ramping up these strikes to test Moscow's vulnerabilities. Ukraine has remained silent, as it usually does when such operations take place. But its military has been increasing the use of drones, targeting Russian infrastructure and military sites. The drone attack coincides with high-level talks between Ukrainian officials and the Trump administration. Unlike the Biden administration, which backed Ukraine unconditionally, President Trump has taken a different stance. He has openly questioned the need for unlimited U.S. support, prioritizing American interests over foreign conflicts. He has also suggested Ukraine should start negotiating for peace, a position that has rattled Kyiv. Zelensky and his team know they're walking a diplomatic tightrope. Trump's America first is not Biden's America. The blank check is gone. If Ukraine wants more hate, it needs to prove it can still inflict damage on Russia. And what better way to make that case than by launching a large-scale drone attack right before the talks? Moscow has condemned the attack, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov calling it a reckless provocation. Russian officials are now debating how to respond. In previous cases, such drone strikes have triggered Russian missile barrages on Ukrainian cities. Will Putin order another wave of airstrikes, or will he wait to see how the US reacts first? The geopolitical stakes are shifting. With Trump now in charge, Ukraine no longer has diplomatic backing. Russia, meanwhile, is deepening ties with China, Iran, and North Korea, expanding its military and economic options. This drone attack is a test, not just for Russia, but for the United States. Will Trump stand firm on his America First policy, or will Ukraine convince him to continue the war effort? And if the US scales back support, what's Kyiv's next move? The battlefield is evolving. The war is no longer just about trenches and tanks. It's a high-tech conflict, fought with drones, diplomacy, and global alliances. So what happens next? That will depend on how Washington and Moscow respond to Ukraine's latest gamble. North Sea tanker collision, toxic spill, missing sailor, and a brewing environmental catastrophe. The North Sea is turned into the latest stage for a maritime disaster. Two massive vessels, a cargo ship carrying toxic chemicals and an oil tanker transporting jet fuel, collided in the frigid waters, setting off a chain reaction of explosions, environmental panic, and an urgent search for a missing crew member. The incident is being called one of the worst shipping accidents in the region in years. Oil is now leaking into the sea. Emergency teams are scrambling to contain the spill. And questions are being raised. Was this preventable? Who is responsible? And how bad could this get? Now let's break it down. What really happened? The collision involved two major vessels. The Solong, a cargo ship loaded with sodium cyanide, highly toxic chemical used in mining, and the Stena Immaculate, an oil tanker chartered by the US military to transport jet fuel. At approximately 3:30 a.m. local time, the two ships collided in rough waters, causing an explosion on the oil tanker's deck. Within minutes, jet fuel was pouring into the North Sea and emergency distress signals were sent out. Rescue teams acted fast. 36 crew members were saved from the two vessels, but one sailor is still missing. And now, with freezing temperatures and strong currents working against them, the chances of finding him alive was shrinking by the hour. Let's talk about the real crisis here, the potential environmental fallout. The Senna Immaculate was carrying jet A1 fuel, the same highly refined fuel used in military and commercial aircraft. This is not your average oil spill. Jet fuel is far more toxic. Disperses quickly and can kill marine life almost instantly. And there is the sodium cyanide. A spill of this magnitude in open water could lead to mass fish deaths, poisoning marine ecosystem for years. Reports suggest some of the barrels carrying the chemical may have been damaged, but officials are yet to confirm whether cyanide has leaked. What does all of this mean? Environmental disaster. The North Sea, already vulnerable due to high shipping traffic, could be looking at a worst-case scenario. A toxic mix of jet fuel and cyanide infiltrating the food chain, harming fish stocks, seabirds, and coastal communities. Experts are calling it a race against time. Response teams are working to contain the spread, but high winds and strong winds are making things difficult. And with no official word yet on how much fuel is leaked, the full scale of the damage is still unknown. Now here is the real question. What went wrong? How do two massive ships, both with state-of-the-art navigation system, collide in open waters? One theory, human error. Reports indicate that the Sulong may have been on autopilot at the time of impact, meaning it could have failed to adjust course. Another possibility is mechanical failure. Either radar malfunction or poor communication between the vessels. There is also the issue of poor visibility. The North Sea is known for harsh conditions, fog, high winds, unpredictable current. If both ships were operating under difficult conditions, the margin for error would have been dangerously small. Investigators are already looking into the last-known communication between the ships, tracking data and onboard logs to piece together what happened in those crucial moments before the crash. This is where things get even more complicated. The Stella Immaculate was transporting jet fuel for the US military. That alone makes this more than just a maritime accident, the usual. The North Sea is a critical shipping route, with NATO warships frequently patrolling the waters. Had intentions with Russia, and suddenly every movement of fuel, military cargo, and supply chains becomes geopolitically significant. Russia has been increasing its naval activity in the region, where there is no evidence of foul play. The incident raises concerns about security risks. NATO's response and now feature oil and free shipment will be handled in these contested waters. What happens now? Immediate priority is containment, stopping further fuel leakage and finding the missing sailor. But the bigger questions will take longer to answer. Who is responsible? If negligence is found, expect a lawsuit, financial penalties, and major fallout for shipping companies. How bad is the environmental damage? If the cyanide has leaked, this crisis could escalate beyond just an oil spill. Will this affect global shipping? If new safety regulations are introduced, expect delays, increased costs, and tighter controls on high-risk cargo. For now, the North Sea remains on high alert. The waves are toxic, the winds are unforgiving, and the world is watching. The US markets plunge. The writing was on the wall, the signs were there, and yet markets fell off a cliff, shedding trillions in value, erasing gains, and sending shockwaves through the global economy.
What we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time It takes a little time.
The Dow Jones collapsed over 1,800 points. The S&P 500 lost a staggering 9%. Its worst single-day drop since the 2020 pandemic crash. The Nasdaq tech stocks are bleeding, wiping out billions in a single trading session. This isn't just a bad day on Wall Street. This is a financial earthquake. Investors are running for the exit. The White House is scrambling for answers, and the world is watching. Because what happens in the US doesn't stay in the US. It spreads like wildfire. So what caused this disaster? More importantly, is this just a market correction or the beginning of the next great financial crisis? Let's break it down. This market crash didn't come out of nowhere. It is a result of months of bad policies, poor economic decisions, and growing global instability. Just today, it all exploded at once. First, Trump's trade war 2.0. President Donald Trump has been in office for just 2 months and already markets are feeling the heat. The administration just slapped every tariff on Chinese imports, recognizing a trade war that has been simmering for years. Beijing responded within hours, hitting back with tariffs on US goods, sending American companies into tailspin. Tech stocks, manufacturing giants, and exporters have been crushed under the weight of new trade barriers. The markets have spoken. They don't like where this is going. Second is the interest rate. The US Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates aggressively. They said it was to control inflation, but today it became clear that they might have gone too far. High interest rates make borrowing more expensive. They slow business growth, they kill investment, and today's crash is proof that Wall Street believes the Fed overplayed its hand. Corporate giants are struggling with higher borrowing costs. Consumers are slashing spending, as small businesses, the backbone of the American economy, are on the brink of collapse. The Federal Reserve thought it was serving inflation. Instead, it may have just triggered a full-blown recession. Banking collapse. This is what investors aren't saying out loud, but they're acting on it. The banking system is looking shaky. Regional banks have been reporting liquidity issues. Mid-sized lenders are losing deposits at an alarming rate, and today, bank stocks led the sell-off. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citigroup, they're all in free fall. This isn't just another market dip. This could be the beginning of a systematic banking crisis. Remember 2008? The financial sector does. And if confidence in bank crumbles, we could be staring at another economic meltdown. So who is getting hit the hardest? First is big tech. So what happens next? The Federal Reserve has a decision to make. The Federal Reserve is now caught in a dangerous trap. If they keep raising rates, markets will continue crashing. If they cut rates, inflation could return with a vengeance. Either way, the US economy is in serious trouble. Second, Trump's White House is under pressure. The president has a big problem. The economy was supposed to be his strong suit, but after today, he's going to face serious questions. Will he backtrack on tariffs? Will he pressure the Fed to reserve costs? The world is waiting for answers. And also, are we heading for a recession? Right now, the signs are flashing red. Consumer spending is down, businesses are cutting down. Investors are pulling out of risky assets. If the trend continues, the US could be in a recession by summer. This isn't just a stock market crash. This is a crisis in the making. The US economy is hanging by a thread. The Federal Reserve is running out of options. The White House is scrambling for solutions. Wall Street has just sent a message, loud and clear. If things don't change fast, we could be looking at a repeat of 2008. The only question is, can Washington stop it in time? Once again, the news headline. NPCL's 84 million barrel deal with Dangote refinery. Narrow controversy in the future of Nigeria's oil trade. Uganda deploys troops to South Sudan. A candidate to replace Trudeau vows to take on Trump in trade war. Russia faces massive drone attack ahead of US-Ukraine talk. North Sea tanker collision. Toxic spill, missing sailor and a brewing environmental catastrophe. US markets plunge. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I am MARYAM Olugbote.